an expert on automotive safety and insurance practices. Robert McDorman's advice and counsel is sought after by insurance departments across our country. As a public insurance adjuster and an appraiser, he is familiar with what consumers need to know to receive fair and full payment on their auto claims. I'm Ware Wendell, and this is Robert McDorman in Conversation. Robert McDorman, welcome to In Conversation.
Thank you so much, Ware, and thank you so much for what you do for the citizens of Texas and Kelly as well. I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all for what you do.
Thank you, Robert. We have a great team here at Texas Watch. Kelly Taft is our director of organizing, who's making sure that Texans' voices are heard at the Capitol, that their lawmakers are paying attention to them, and not just to the professional lobbyists who are walking the halls at the Capitol every day. So we're so lucky to have her on our staff, and thank you for that shout out.
Yeah, she does a wonderful job. Wonderful job.
Most definitely. Well, speaking of the Capitol, you and I have been at the Capitol through the years advocating for consumers, for working families, for auto safety. And we've also been down at the Texas Department of Insurance, helping them to understand what the problems are that are facing families every day in this state when they're just trying to get their car or their truck repaired safely, when they're facing pressure tactics from the insurance companies that ultimately are underpaying those claims.
You know, worse. It's just getting worse and worse. It's not getting any better. Even though, like you said, several times we've been to the Capitol, many times we've been to the Texas Department of Insurance. I think now we've spoken with 3 different commissioners, and just for some reason, our messages isn't being heard. You know, I'm not sure why. It's just we provided all the statistics, we provided all the data. I've done everything that they've asked. Offered, as a licensed public insurance adjuster, I'm just a custodian for these records. So I've invited them to my office to review files, go over anything that they need to, get them comfortable with what's going on as far as under indemnification of these motor vehicle claims. Back in September of 2021, I sent a cease and desist order, I call it, or a recommendation to Commissioner Sullivan, and after roughly an 8 or 9 month span, probably on average 20 to 25 different files I sent them with volumes of data, paperwork, and then at the end of that, they issued a bulletin that they just weren't going to act on it. It was up to a finder of fact.
Well, Robert, you impressed me very early on. This was years ago as an expert in this area. I mean, you really understand how this process should work. And when it doesn't work that way, when people are having a hard time getting their vehicles repaired the right way, according to original equipment manufacturer specifications, what to do to bring those insurance companies to the table and to pay the money that they owe under the insurance policy, under our insurance laws. And I've seen you do that personally. And it's a real service that you perform for Texans, for families all across our state. You mentioned you're a licensed public insurance adjuster. Talk a bit about the role of a public insurance adjuster, how that differs from the insurance adjusters who work for the insurance companies. And you're licensed in many states across this country. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. Our auto claim specialist is licensed, I believe, in 28 states now. We're contracted to do business in 6 others. So we have a good footprint across the United States. So I'm routinely asked by various different insurance commissions to speak to their staff on these issues, help educate them, look at different different things that come up in that area.
And you go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's right. The public insurance adjuster only represents the insured. We're not allowed to represent the insurer. So someone comes to us that has an issue with their insurance company. They feel as though they haven't been properly indemnified, or they just may not understand. Many folks a day come to our office, just to get our opinion. Look at my settlement. Maybe it's fair. If it's fair, let me know it's fair. Give me a peace of mind, and let me move on. And we do that. We're not every single insurance claim we look at is unfair. I mean, that would be wrong to say that. But the ones that we look at are grossly under-indemnified. And when it comes to the repair procedures we do, the large amount of the insurance companies' estimates or repair plans that they've written that in their opinion properly repairs the car constitutes unsafe repair. If the collision facility adhered to exactly the repair plan that the insurance company has issued, and that's I have a problem with that.
I do too, because we want to make sure if your vehicle's been in a collision, that it is repaired safely. It's repaired the way that the original manufacturer said it should be repaired. They understand how that truck should function. They understand how that car should function because they built that truck. They designed that truck. They know how all those safety systems work together. And when an insurance company steps in and says, you know what, we don't think it's going to take that much time or that much money, or we're going to pay for this part, but not original parts, it can create a real problem for families if, heaven forbid, they're in another collision and now their vehicle is not performing to protect them when they're in that second collision.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not just the amount of time where that's allocated. That's a dispute. It's the procedures, the operations and the procedures, where we routinely see that the manufacturer will issue a position statement saying that this operation absolutely should be done. If this impact occurs, this operation should be done. Well, routinely we see the insurance carriers say, not recognizing that, and will turn around and say, well, that's not the prevailing practice in our market. Well, the definition of prevailing practice for them is if 10 shops in this area have been surveyed and 9 of the shops are doing it wrong and one of the shops is doing it right, then they're not going to pay the one shop that's doing it right. They're going to say, well, that's not the prevailing practice. Well, these 9 shops that they interviewed or surveyed, possibly were not certified in this brand, or didn't have the right qualifications, and it's a serious problem. And the more technology that these cars have, the more different alloys, different metals, the more sophisticated the repairs become. And it's there's no one any better to tell someone how to fix the car than the manufacturer that built that car.
And one thing consumers may not understand, Robert, is some repair shops actually have a professional relationship with some insurance companies. So it's important to understand, are you with an independent body shop, or are you with a body shop that gets regular business from these insurance companies? It can make a difference sometimes.
Yeah, no question. It not only makes a difference where it makes a difference on how the car is repaired. The majority of the shops are on these relationships with insurance companies. They're required to follow their guidelines on the repair process, and I've got a problem with that. I've got a real problem with that, and they're also involved in the repair methodology on how, and they're dealing with the shop. So some of these facilities have several of the insurance companies located right at their shop. So it's a there needs to be a partition between that.
And I know you do a lot of work with the Auto Body Association of Texas. And of course, we've interviewed Burl Richards, the president of ABAT. And the shops that are organizing through ABAT, I've seen them as the independent shops who are putting their customers first time and again, investing in their workforce, investing in the best equipment, and who have the willingness, frankly, to push back against the insurance companies when the insurance companies are coming in and trying to force these repair professionals to cut corners, cheap out repairs, do the things that, frankly, the consumer may not know. It creates a problem for them because I've said this before, but the fender gets straightened out, it gets buffed, it gets painted, it looks bright and shiny and new when you get the car back. But you on the consumer side have no idea how structurally sound and safe that vehicle is once you get right beneath the surface level. And so these independent shops who care about doing the job the right way are rebuilding those cars from the ground up, from the frame up, making sure that all the safety systems are working the way that they should, and not letting the insurance companies pressure them into making a cheaper and more dangerous repair.
Well, the shops that you were speaking about that are the independent shops that follow the manufacturer guidelines to repair these cars routinely are inspected from outside sources. Their repair plans are gone over in detail. They're educated. They go through continuing education. They have the equipment to safely repair the vehicle, and they follow a repair plan that's originated and by the manufacturer itself. So and again, there's no one any better to instruct the repair facility how to properly repair the vehicle than the manufacturer that made that car.
That's right. That's right. So as a public insurance adjuster, you can help people at many different stages of the process, trying to get the insurance company to come to the table and pay the right amount on that claim. You've talked about indemnification, under indemnification, and these are technical ways of saying that the insurance company isn't paying enough money under that insurance policy, under the laws, to make that consumer whole. They're not paying up. They're paying less. They're lowballing the claim. But in addition to being a public insurance adjuster, you're also an appraiser. And would you talk about the appraisal process, why it's important on these auto damage claims, and how it can help consumers?
Glad to. Where the appraisal process is about finding the right number. The right number is what bootstraps to the limits of liability in the policy. And what we routinely see is the insurance adjusters and insurance appraisers are not following the policy. They have an operating guideline that they issue these repair plans, or they issue the total loss statements. They're not in conjunction with the policy itself. What the appraiser's role is to define the loss. The appraiser's role is not to define the liability, is to define the loss.
That's right. It's the amount that is owed, the amount of the loss. Doesn't get into coverage questions. Should the insurance company cover this loss or not cover this loss? Who's at fault? But if there's damage, what's it going to cost to repair that damage properly? Do I have that right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the defining of the liability also applies to the public insurance adjuster. The public insurance adjuster is not allowed to define liability. The public insurance adjuster, looks at the loss statement and then looks at the policy limits of liability to see if this is a covered thing.
But if you can get to the right number under appraisal, and if there aren't being a bunch of games being played by the insurance companies along the way, it can be a way to get enough money on the table to get the job done the right way, to make sure that that vehicle is repaired safely. And really, the consumer needs a safe vehicle that they can get back to work in, that they can take their kids to school in. That's where the consumer's mindset is how do I get back on the road? I need my vehicle repaired. I need it to be reliable. And so appraisal can be helpful in that process.
There's no question that is the exact mechanism to define loss, appraisal. When there becomes a conflict between the repair professional and the insurer as to what is the proper repair, and then that can be handled through appraisal, and it can be handled very quickly in a timely fashion, and that's why this last legislative session we had the appraisal bill. It had stop gaps in it and mechanisms to structure the appraisal process where it was fair for the insurer and the insured.
That's right. It was a two-way street. And I want to talk about that bill, but just to set the stage for it, years ago, as insurance companies were able to get their own policy forms approved for use in the state, we saw the auto insurance companies putting appraisal in these policies. They wanted appraisal as an option if there was a dispute. And through the years, as more and more of these disputes have gone through appraisal, we're finding that the appraisers are coming down on the side of the consumer. They're coming down on the side of the body shop who's saying, no, actually, this repair is a pretty big one and it's going to take a lot of time and we need to have good parts. And that the insurance companies are coming in under the amount that it would take to do that repair safely. I know you work on many different claims all across the state. I know how busy you are. As you survey your data, as you look at your book of claims, what has your experience been as your customers have gone through the appraisal process? Let's break it out on vehicles that were declared originally as a total loss by the insurance company. The insurance company said, okay, this is a really bad wreck. This vehicle has been totaled. After that goes through the appraisal process, Robert, on average, what are you finding with your customers? What are the appraisers finding on those claims?
That the insurance company has, on average, under indemnified the insured $3,800 or
nearly $4,000 in underpayment and lowballing by the insurance company.
Yes, sir, that's absolutely correct.
And then taking it, so the insurance companies say, well, that's a total claim. That's its own thing. All right, all the other vehicles that you work on that aren't declared total losses, what are you seeing there when they go through the appraisal process? Are the insurance companies overpaying, underpaying?
They're underpaying, under indemnified those as well. It's on average $5,400.
My goodness. So over $5,000 in underpayment. And this is a neutral process, appraisal is. If the two appraisers can't agree on the amount, then in some cases it can go to a third appraiser called an umpire who figures out what the right amount is. So it's a neutral process. And as you take these claims through that process, you're seeing insurance companies underpaying by thousands and thousands of dollars. It's taking appraisal to get the right amount of money on the table for that consumer, for that body shop, to do that job the right way, to repair the vehicle safely.
That's correct, or even in a total loss to get the insured made whole. So again, $3,800 or 28% increase is a staggering number for it.
And the reason why I think this is so important on auto claims, the amount of money that we're talking about here is really important for working families. $3,000, $5,000, $6,000. But if you were having to litigate those claims, if you're having to take those cases all the way through court on a $5,000 underpayment, it can be very difficult sometimes to get an attorney to help you because they're going to have to take potentially a portion of that as part of their payment. And so you're really left to your own ends in terms of trying to negotiate with the insurance company. If you're a sophisticated consumer and you've heard about appraisal before, maybe you try to help navigate your claim through that process. But someone like you, Robert, who's a public insurance adjuster who knows this process backwards and forwards because you're in it all the time, you can be gathering that data, getting that information to the appraisers to show them this is the full extent of the repair that needs to be made. These are the parts that need to be used. These are the steps that need to be followed according to the equipment manufacturer, and showing them that this is everything that needs to be done to get this vehicle into its pre-loss condition, into the state it was in before it got into that car wreck.
Correct. and the appraisal process is the mechanism to do that. Now I'm not an advocate that every claim should go through appraisal. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is whenever the number's wrong, the repair methodology is at dispute, and it's a safety issue, then appraisal is the mechanism that should be honored.
That's right. And so years and years ago, we saw the insurance companies getting appraisal into the policies. Now, the claims that are going through appraisal that you're working on, you're seeing that the insurance companies are originally trying to underpay these claims by thousands and thousands of dollars. It's taking appraisal to get that fixed on many of those. But then a number of years ago, I believe it was 2014, we saw a major insurance carrier take appraisal away in their insurance policy for some claims. And Robert, you were the first person who brought this to my attention. You may have been one of the first people in the state to have figured out what this major insurance company was doing. Can you talk about that?
I can. And when it first came about, where we're also licensed in Illinois, so a customer came to me in Illinois to invoke the appraisal clause on a current year model Mercedes. It needed an engine cradle, and this carrier that we're speaking about wanted to put a gray market engine cradle in it, which would have voided the warranty. So I had the Illinois policy in our library, so we invoked the right of appraisal, and sure enough, the carrier denied it. So it wasn't in the policy. So I got the revision policy, and sure enough, the right to appraisal on repair procedure dispute had been removed. So roughly 6 months later, I had the same situation on a Texas claim, and we brought this to the attention of at TDI. And when you were in a meeting, TDI said that I'd handled the claim wrong, that I should have advised the insured to go through the right of appraisal and I didn't do that, which is consistent with what at the time their website said. Their website said before you file a complaint, seek appraisal. So when I brought this to the attention of TDI management, they said that wasn't true, that the right to appraisal was in the policy, and that was the insured's right. And then later on they found out that I was right. That it was. So they had no idea. And you were in the meeting.
I was
at the shock of the meeting, the tone of the meeting.
You were right. And because you see these issues all across the country, you said in the state of Illinois as well, you were seeing what was happening, and you were bringing it to the attention of these Texas state regulators. And it was evident to me, Robert, that you knew a whole lot more about what was and what wasn't in that policy than the regulators did. You brought it to their attention in the course of that meeting that this policy form had made its way through the approval process without the right of appraisal there for consumers in certain situations. So you brought that to their attention, that there was this hole in this policy.
Well, also when they walked us to the elevator, where the group of us to the elevator, one of the deputy commissioners that walked us to there openly told me, said, "Robert, that was very interesting, the presentation you put on." He said that part about the insurance carrier taking the right to appraisal or repair procedure completely got past us. That was his exact words.
Got past him. And so there's a hole in that policy with a very big carrier. And now we're seeing that another large carrier is trying to carve up their policies to take away appraisal as well. They would like to do that. So it's very important for the Texas legislature to step in and to step up on this issue. A lot of people don't know. They think that the federal government regulates everything. But when it comes to insurance, actually the states are the regulators of the business of insurance. It's called reverse preemption, and I'm kind of getting in the weeds here on the law for folks, but instead of the feds having the final say on these issues, actually our state level lawmakers and regulators are the ones that set the policy for our state in terms of what is going to be permissible in an insurance policy, what isn't, what practices are allowed, what practices are not allowed. And so we need state lawmakers this legislative session to step up and to say, if you get into a wreck, you should have the right to take your dispute through appraisal. If you can't get to an agreement on your own with the insurance company on what the amount of the loss should be. You and I worked on legislation last session that would have fixed this problem. We had good progress in the House, and then it stalled in the Senate. And we need the legislation this session to pass both chambers, the House and the Senate, put a bill on the governor's desk so that the governor can do the right thing for the consumers of this state and make sure that they have options when it comes to working with an insurance company to get the right amount of money to do the repair the safe way.
Well, where the appraisal is the guardrails. It's the guardrails for indemnification. And the bill that we worked on together and the bill that we ultimately was drafted and sponsored by lawmakers was good for both sides. It was fair. It was fair for both sides. And it's if we don't have appraisal on these repair, then this is going to become a even bigger safety issue than it is. If it gets to the point where there's no one looking over the proper repair methodology when the repair professional and the insurer are at odds on what is the proper way to fix this car, that's that in my opinion, that will be the nail in the coffin for the safe roadways of Texas.
You're right. And the bill that we both worked on last session, as you said, it was a fair bill to both sides, to the insurance companies, to the body shops, to the consumers of this state. And that's why that bill received a lot of support in the House, a lot of very strong bipartisan support. And we'll be working again this session, you and I both, on similar legislation to make sure that consumers have that option, that families have that option to bring insurance companies to the table, to get to the right number, to do the repair the safest way possible. We've seen that the Texas Supreme Court has decided a number of cases as they relate to the issue of appraisal. The Hinojosa case is a relatively recent case where the Supreme Court said to insurance companies, hey, you need to take the insurance laws of the state seriously. You need to pay according to the deadlines that are in the law. Partial payments will be punished. If you know that you should owe more money, you need to put more money on the table. But the reality here, Robert, is we're going to need the Texas legislature to put it in statute, to write a law that says that appraisal is an option that all auto policyholders should have in this state. And the other thing that this bill did that I liked so much is it took the delay tactics out of the process. It required the appraisal process to start within, I believe, 90 days of proof of loss, right? You've had this wreck, you take it to the body shop, they figure out what they think the repairs need to be. You put that in front of the insurance company. That starts the clock ticking under the legislation that we need to get into appraisal. We shouldn't wait a year, 2 years, 3 years before the appraisal process starts. Let's get people back on the roads, but let's make sure that they're getting back on the roads in a safe vehicle, and timely appraisal with a good deadline like 90 days can make that happen.
Well, with your permission, let's just draw a line and see what happens when that doesn't happen. If we go back to September of 2019, when I gave the information to the Texas Department of Insurance, I think it was roughly 20 claims that I turned over to them, just volumes and volumes of information. Well, on those 20 claims that they refused to do anything about, all but one or two of those, at the recommendation of TDI, I referred those to law firms and it went to litigation. So it was on average 19 months after the litigation started that appraisal was ordered on average, and now 3 or 4 of those are still in litigation, and if I'm not mistaken, that's 2019 to, what was that, 4 years?
Yeah. 4 years ago.
Yeah, and they're still in litigation, and these were total loss claims. These were not repair procedure. These repair procedure disputes. These individuals, they need their car. And in Texas, every policy, the most the rental car is 30 days.
Right.
So they've run out of this. They have no car. They're borrowing cars. They're paying a car note. They're paying insurance. It's awful. What we see in our office, and it doesn't have to be like that. That's why the legislators passed the appraisal bill the way that they did.
In the House, exactly, where it would start that clock within 90 days to get this process moving, to get these cars and trucks repaired, to get people back on the road safely. 90 days under the bill versus 19 months of delays in practice, which is what you just said.
Yes, and what about the several that are still ongoing?
Right.
And without this bill that we're speaking about, every day in our office we see the insurers playing with this appraisal because there's no timelines on it. There's only one carrier. Only one carrier, to my knowledge, has got a timeline on the appraisal. The rest of them, it's open ended. It needs to be structured. It needs to be in a fashion that's fair for both the insurer and the insured. And in my professional opinion, the bill does that.
I agree. That's why it's so important that we have legislation this session at the Capitol to make those changes in the law to protect consumers. And as you said, the bill is very even-handed. It's not lopsided in one favor or the other. It just says if we're going to have an appraisal process, it should be available to all folks in the state, and it needs to get started on time. Basically, that's what the bill says. It's a simple bill, and we need everybody to tell their lawmakers, to tell their state representatives, to tell their state senators, to tell the governor to pass this legislation to protect all of us if we should get into a dispute with an insurance company about the proper amount of an auto repair. And so you can raise your voices on our website. We make it very easy. Go to texaswatch.org/safe repairs. texaswatch.org/safe repairs. You'll see on our website, you just have to click a button and it gives you a letter that's already there ready to go to your lawmaker. You don't even have to know the name of your state representative or your state senator. All you have to do is put your address in, your name in, and the system will populate who your lawmakers are. You can change that letter any way you like, but we make it very easy. Just a couple of clicks, the letters go where they need to go to let lawmakers know that this is a problem that needs to be fixed this session. Again, the legislation last session in 2021 received very strong bipartisan support in the House, and we need lawmakers to step up again. We need them to pass it in the House, pass it in the Senate, and get it on over to the governor so he can sign it into law and take care of this problem once and for all. Well, Robert, any other issues that come to mind on this? Anything else that you'd like to leave our audience with?
No, I can't stress enough for anybody in the audience that listens to this. Just if you're involved in an accident, let an unbiased professional look at the settlement, make sure it's fair.
That's right. This is all coming down to what is fair, just getting to the right number so that those repair professionals have the time that they need to do the job the right way, to make that repair as safe as possible so that, like I said, heaven forbid, if we're in another collision in that vehicle, that collision will perform for you. It will protect you. It won't come apart at the seams. So that's why this issue is so important. It's literally an issue of life and death. And we have to make sure that our vehicles are repaired safely in this state, and insurance companies can't cut corners and pressure others to cut corners.
Where we owe that message to the citizens of Texas to protect them and their families. That's something needs to be done, because every month that we rock on, this indemnification issue on the safe repair becomes greater and greater.
That's right. That's right. There's more and more people on the roads, more and more collisions, more and more vehicles that need to be repaired safely. So the time is now to make a change in Texas law. And the opportunity is now, because the legislature is in session and we have the ability to make our voices heard. Again, go to texaswatch.org/safe repairs. You'll see the form right there on the page for you to fill that out. Send a letter to your lawmakers to let them know that we need fair appraisal in this state when it comes to auto claims, because safe repairs save lives. Safe repairs save lives. That's our rallying cry this session, Robert. Robert McDorman, thank you so much for joining us. This has been very educational. I always learn from you every time we get to talk, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Warren. Please keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. Thank you.